So welcome this evening to our lecture series. We're trying to do these monthly. We're trying to, this has been moving forward. And so we do these, trying to do them on the fourth Thursdays of the month from 5 to 8. Usually 5 to 5:30 ends up being eating time. We usually ask Preacher Dave to come and provide food for you if you want to get something for dinner. And then we start around 5:30. We had advertised Pastor Carolyn Fisher for this evening, but she's been unable to attend. So, but we are so happy that we have this, and I don't remember, they're going to introduce themselves, so I'm not going to say who they are. I just met her tonight. I've seen her, but I just met her. So anyway, but I just want to, before we get started, I really want to thank our board members. And that includes Deb Newman, who's like my sidekick. She does all my websites and my social media and all that for the museum. Who the heck are you? Rebecca Giggins, who is our chair of the museum. And then Kay Minor, you're still Minor. Dupre is on our board. Let me look and see. I think that's all of our board members.
Behind you.
Oh, and I'm sorry. And Janice Jones. But thanks to my board, we have really grown this past year. Actually, this month, from May to May, we have grown exponentially in huge ways. Unfortunately, because Brianna passed away in March of last year, but we've done a lot just to try and carry through some of the things that she would have wanted us to do, and some new things that we've all decided to do. So I thank you all for coming tonight and supporting our lecture series. On Tuesday night, we will have another event coming up where we'll have an open house of the old museum. So if you're a member of the museum, please come and you will get to come into the museum, which hasn't been open for about 6 or 7 years, and see the exhibits in there. On top of that, even if you aren't a member, please come, because everything else is open to the public. We have the courthouse is there, and we're doing our new exhibit for this term, this summer, is going to be Pirates, Privateers, and Thieves. So we have some really neat, we've worked with the kids from the school, they've done posters for us and research for us, and so we've been able to involve the school system and, the kids and so forth and so on. So it's been it's been a project well worth doing. With no further ado, we have a few questions. I'm going to let each of you introduce yourselves, explain to everyone your connection to Westmoreland County. So I'll start with this one. This is okay.
So my first question is, do we have to use the microphone?
No, not at all. Can everyone hear without the microphone?
Some of us are really hard of hearing.
I'm really good at projecting.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
Okay, I'll use it if you want me to use it.
We'll put it here. Do you need it? Would you like to use it?
Please use it.
I'll use it.
Okay, there you go.
Hi everyone, I'm here in place of Melissa Coburn, who wasn't able to make it, but my name is Kerry Gonzalez. I'm the Chief of Cultural Resource Management at George Washington Birthplace National Monument. It's a mouthful. Basically what that means, I'm the park archaeologist, architectural historian, curator, historian. I handle all the cultural things there in the archaeology. And that's what brought me to Westmoreland County, was that job.
Okay. Where were you from? Oh, I always ask that question to everyone, so.
I'm a Yankee. I'm a transplant from New York. So I grew up there. I've been in Virginia for 20 years, so I think I earned my badge to be a partial Southerner. I do say y'all now. But I've been in Fredericksburg. I live in Caroline now, so I'm adjacent mostly.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming.
I'm Janice Jones. I know almost everybody in here. I'm director of the Art Center of Montrose. I'm also the president of J Art Incorporated, which doesn't do a lot in Montrose or Westmoreland, but we do a lot in the Northern Neck. King George originally. Never, ever, 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 ever thought I'd come back to this area of the world, ever. My mom got sick and here I am, and then I moved down here after she died. So, been here like 10, 11 years now, and I love it.
Hi, good evening. First of all, thanks for having us today. Really appreciate it. My name is Julie Sichol. I am currently the General District Court Judge for the Northern Neck and Essex. I started that in July 1st of last year, so I'll be a year on the bench this coming July. I was the Commonwealth's attorney for Westmoreland County for 12 years before I was appointed to serve as the judge for the Northern Neck, and I am a native of Westmoreland. My father's family has been here since King's Charter. And my mother's family is from Westmoreland County as well, so I'm a Westmoreland County native. I left Westmoreland to go to college and law school, worked in the city for about 10 years or so, and then the election for Commonwealth's attorney is what brought me back to Westmoreland. My husband's from Richmond County, also from the Northern Neck, so we came back to raise our family here.
Thanks.
It's in a weird place, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Natasha Tucker. I'm the town manager for Colonial Beach. I did not know that I would be speaking this evening. But here I am. I've served as the town manager for the past 2 years now. Most recently, I was in Dallas, Texas, but I grew up in Florida, so spent high school in Florida, did about 4 years or so in the military, went off, got my bachelor's, then master's, and then law degree, and practiced law for a little bit of time, and just knew right away, yeah, I didn't want to practice law full time, and I had some friends who were county attorneys and just attorneys with different municipalities, and so they said, well, why don't you try just working for local government? I think you would be great at it. And so I started my career in Delray Beach, Florida, in procurement. So I worked with the contracts and negotiating all of the agreements for the city of Delray Beach, and just worked my way up into being the town manager. I love being in the Northern Neck. It's just surrounded by so much history and beauty. And I remember in law school reading the case of Loving versus Virginia, and just being so close in proximity to where all of that happened and took place in Caroline County, to me is just amazing. And I am very, very fortunate and glad to serve here in this capacity.
Awesome, thank you so much. Thank you for the microphone back in. How about you take the next question as well first? All right, so what led you to your profession? And part of that you've kind of already addressed. But what in the beginning made you think you wanted to be an attorney? Do you know?
So it was personal for me. When I was 9 years old, I was hit by a truck. And I was in a coma for 9 days. And my family didn't know anything about navigating the legal system or anything like that. So of course there was a lawsuit, and once everything was settled and I healed, I started going through my mom's things, and I came across the legal documents. And as I was reading them, I said, you know what? We got the short end of the stick here, because I'm still in a lot of pain. It took me a long time to fully heal, and the person who hit me was truly negligent, and it just wasn't brought out just how negligent he was during the trial. And so I said, you know what, there are other families who just don't know how to navigate the legal system, they don't know how to advocate for themselves, and so at a very young age, I wanted to be that voice for people who just didn't understand the system, they didn't know where to go, who to speak to, or they're just intimidated by lawyers and the whole law system. And if they're from another country, forget about it. They're not even going to seek any sort of representation. So I wanted to be that voice for those group of people. However, when I graduated law school, there was some sort of a recession, and I worked for a real estate firm. And so I worked for the banks. We represented the banks, and we essentially were taking people's homes away from them. And I just, at some level, just knew and felt that that was wrong, right? Like, there are extenuating circumstances that lead a person to not being able to make their mortgage payments, and they didn't care about any of that. They never asked any of those questions, but I was the sole attorney asking these questions. And of course I was told to shut up, handle your caseload, and just do the work. There were instances of fraud that I witnessed that it just wasn't okay with me, and so I knew that wasn't the environment that I wanted to be in. So in just speaking with some of my law school friends, they seemed to be pretty happy in what they were doing and working as attorneys with the different municipalities. And I think that just left a bad taste in my mouth, and I said, there has to be something else, you know, that I could do with this law degree within the municipal government, and just went into procurement, helped with negotiating the agreements, and saw the immediate effects that working at the local level had. So although I wasn't helping people in the way that I initially envisioned when I wanted to become a lawyer, I was having that immediate effect with the community, because everything that you do at the local level is felt immediately. You don't have to wait with the folks coming into town hall, with public comments, just different issues that they had. You could immediately address their concerns, and that was fulfilling for me.
So you need the question again, Paul?
No, I know the question. And I realized when Natasha introduced herself that we've hung out before.
Too much different.
Okay, sorry. She's a pleasure. So I became a lawyer because I came from a family of lawyers. Again, same reason I'm here in Westmoreland, because of my family. My grandfather was an attorney. My father was an attorney. I grew up watching my dad. I dare to say he was probably the best criminal defense attorney here in the Northern Neck. I have heard nothing but wonderful things about him and the way that he handled his profession since I moved back home. And I used to go to his office. I think my sister's here, and when we were little, we would go answer the telephones, and my grandfather's secretary would get upset because she thought we were too young to answer the phones, but we would answer the telephones. I would watch him. I would go to court and watch him, and I just grew up wanting to emulate what he did. And I saw him as a person who helped other people. That's what I saw. He was an individual who helped others, and so I wanted to do that same thing. And when I went to law school, I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney. Unfortunately, my father passed away before I graduated from college, and I ended up going to law school and becoming a criminal defense attorney. I worked for the Petersburg Public Defender's Office for almost 5 years. Loved being a public defender, but as a public defender found out that the person who had the power was the prosecutor, and that there was only so much I could do to help my clients. And I was in the juvenile courts, and so in a couple of different respects. Number one, I was representing these juveniles and wanting to try and help them, rehabilitate them, but found that there were unreasonable people prosecuting. And so then I made the decision that I needed to be a reasonable prosecutor. And I needed to not only get justice for the victims, but to figure out how to fix the individuals that were committing the crime, or what things I could put in place to ensure that it wouldn't happen again. And so I switched sides, became a prosecutor in Chesterfield, and then I came here to Westmoreland and ran for Commonwealth's attorney and served here, like I said, for 12 years. And I like to think that I have, as a prosecutor, been fair and reasonable and just, that I have gotten justice for victims who needed justice, but I've also taken steps to try and address whatever underlying problem is driving criminal behavior. One of the things that I did was I helped establish the Northern Neck and Essex Adult Drug Court Program, Adult Recovery Court Program. And that started in 2019 and is still up and running now. Very proud of that. So that is how I got here, and then I was chosen to be appointed by the legislature. So I try to be fair and just now as a judge as well.
Janice, do you want the question or do you need it again? You good? I'm gonna respond to it, but I remember the number.
Okay, good job. See, that's a woman leader.
First of all, I want to say, I'm obviously the oldest person here, so.
It wasn't obvious, but that's okay.
Thank you. So my experiences are a little bit different, and I really want to address them because I think that they need to be addressed, that people need to remember. When I graduated from high school and went to go to college, I will not name the college, but it wasn't the finest in Virginia, although I didn't know that. I graduated and came home and really wasn't too interested in doing anything. Now, let me get back. My parents said I had to be a nurse or a teacher. And let me tell you, that wasn't happening. So I did a business with, it wasn't a minor, but a lot of art classes because I did want to do art. I came home and wasn't really motivated, so friends of friends, my parents said, oh, there's somebody in DC and they're looking for a secretary and we think your daughter would do fine. I found out later that because of the college that I attended, I probably wouldn't have entered the government anything other than a clerical person. But I went, I got the job. I was mentored by some of the most amazing women. And I thank them for everything they did for me because I was little Janice Jones from King George County. And I took the Federal Service Entrance Exam, started moving up, and I was with the Department of Education, and it was the time that women were moving up and becoming supervisors. And the Department of Education really worked with us, and they wanted us to be best we could be. And I'm very grateful for that. So I had 35 years, a lot of it in procurement. But I was always an artist in a suit and pantyhose and 3-inch heels until I retired. But I always did artsy stuff on the side. I moved to Mexico not knowing that it was an artist community. And I started taking art lessons down there and it was just amazing. My dad died, I came back to take care of my mom. I'm talking way too much, but I'll cut it short. Started taking lessons all over the place. And I decided, I'm spending too much time away from mom, I need to be with her more. So I asked a teacher if she would think about coming to Fredericksburg to teach. And she said yes. Well, it knocked my socks off, I'm gonna have to tell you, because she was pretty famous. Well, then I started asking, and so I did workshops in Fredericksburg, Southern Maryland, North Carolina, until COVID. And that was the Two Rivers Art Workshops. Well, we all know what happened during COVID, and I moved down here just before that. And I started a couple of little endeavors with art, but then Warsaw came to me and they wanted me to open a gallery. And I'm telling you, we really worked to find a place for an art gallery, but it just wasn't happening. So Montrose came, the building came up, and lo and behold, we have the Art Center of Montrose, which is very exciting. And so that's how I'm here, and we'll talk a little bit later about what I want to do to bring art to the neck, but I'm very passionate about what I do.
So I had no intention of being an archaeologist when I started college. My degrees are in history. My track was museum studies. That's what I was gonna do. I interned all over place at every museum that would take me, and one day my boss, we went down, we were on a hike, and there were all these ceramic pieces in the creek. And I said, you know what, I think I know someone on campus that can tell us what they are. And I went to the anthropology department and I walked in, and there was this woman with dangly earrings and a long flowy skirt. She was sitting on her desk, and she was fabulous. And she told me that I could get graduate credits to do a dig, and it was only 6 weeks. And I thought, well, I get to be outside, I'm sold. The first day, I was like, well, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And that's the end of my archaeological story. Like, she is still a mentor to me this day. I met her in 2000, and it's been just an amazing career. I met my husband in the field. He's 10 years clean of being an archaeologist. But we met in a cornfield in Pennsylvania, and I built a Seneca Village site. I didn't even know it was something that you could get paid to do at the time, and there's not a lot. Young people don't really understand that either. It's taught at various colleges, but they don't understand. There's a whole bustling world of archaeologists out there. Most archaeological sites that are identified in the United States are through cultural resource management. That's like the contract. That's what I did for 20 years before coming to the best job that anyone could ever have.
Awesome, great. Okay, so the next question is, what were some of the challenges you faced as a woman in your profession?
Being a boss of a bunch of dudes in the field. I'm from New York, so I'm a naturally assertive person and direct anyway. And everyone in here probably knows that when women are direct and assertive, we get classified as something else, an unflattering word sometimes. But I try to temper that with a lot of respect and listening too. But I did have troubles being a boss, because when I started in CRM, that's Cultural Resource Management, I already had a master's, and in that world, you have to meet the Secretary of Interior standards as an archaeologist to be a boss on a lot of jobs. And I was 21, and they were like, boom, you're in charge. You have 1 year of experience. And they would just put me in charge of these guys who were like 40, 50 years old, have been doing it forever, and I was in charge of them. And I had troubles with some, but again, I tempered it with respect. But in addition to being supervisor, was getting landowners or clients to look me in the eye, and not the guy standing next to me talking about a project. And I would try to do this dance. I over here or send someone away, so they would, but they naturally gravitate towards the man, because I couldn't read a map. How could I read a token map? I was just a woman.
Right.
But those,
I think we can all, many of us can say what you're saying, absolutely.
but those were my two biggest challenges. We had sexual harassment issues in the field, because it's very construction worker-like. CRM, you live in a hotel, you're with these people all day long. Sometimes these shelters are in the middle of the woods, and but you have to, stand up and stomp on someone's foot or tell them no, you don't talk to me that way. Usually they'll back down unless they're a total greaseball.
Great.
Well, I can ditto that. In spades, I'm sure. It's difficult. And I've got one, it's not a harassment thing, but I've got a really good example, I think. When I started painting, I signed my name Janice Jones. And I was taking class from a male teacher, and he says, can I give you a piece of advice? And I said, of course, because I'm a student, He says, sign your paintings, J. Jones. Men sell more paintings than women. Now, that doesn't mean that they're better artists, and I don't know why that is, but a lot of women will use their initial, and now I sign on the back. Even in the art field, we have this, well, you don't know as much as I do, Oh, yeah. But, you know, being the director of the center, I always say, well, I've got to go out here, and, you know, whatever's wrong, it's me. And I feel very, very strongly about that. But I think that it's trying to get the respect that we deserve. I think that's the hardest thing that we have to do.
So this was a difficult question for me, because I don't know that I have ever said to myself, this is a challenge because I'm a woman. And I hear what you all are saying, and I absolutely agree with it. And I think now in reflection, I would have a similar opinion. And I can think of some examples of things that would never be said to a man. And so in the legal field, and I started as an attorney in 2000, and so there were a good number of female attorneys by that time. You know, there were a lot of trailblazers. And so I never felt like a minority when I was in court. And also I'm in a position where when I'm speaking, people are listening, right? You have the system where there's one person making an argument, another person making an argument, and so maybe I didn't experience as much of the they're not listening to you because you're a woman, because you kind of have the floor. However, some of the things that I heard, I will never forget. As a public defender, I went into court one day, and the judge said to me, "Your hair is very unprofessional. I think you should start to think about doing something other than wearing it curly." And he was a preacher. And I said, "I appreciate that, but my hair is God-given, and I embrace the things that God gives me." And so, you know, that was one thing. In court, as a judge, I have defendants call me sweetheart. Like, I can guarantee that there is not a woman who comes into court or a man who addresses a male judge as sweetheart. And I just let it roll off. I mean, in all honesty, I let it roll off my back. I know, number one, when people come to court, they are nervous, right? I realize that. And I don't think that they do it in a manner to be disrespectful. I don't take it as them being disrespectful. Maybe that's the way they address people, because I am a hunter, like, thank you, hun. You know, I have used familiar nicknames with people. I was a waitress forever, so I'm used to that, and doing it myself. So I don't take offense to it. But some of them they're not environmental, but self-imposed. And one of my biggest was the pressure I put on myself to balance career, mom, and wife. And there is so much pressure, and I have 3 children that are all involved in sports and other things. And I have made it my mission not to miss a game and not to miss something. And when you have a challenging career that you can get called out in the middle of the night to respond to a scene, or, you know, as Commonwealth Attorney, I was on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 12 years. And so it was a lot of work. But I tried my hardest to get to games. And if for some reason I had to miss one, the amount of pressure I put on myself for doing that, like, it was a tremendous amount of pressure. And so I think that some of it is self-imposed as well as environmental. And those are just the examples that I have.
I echo the sentiments of everyone who's already spoken, but for me, additionally, a challenge that I struggle with is finding the balance between what I like to call the real me and, of course, the professional me. So when I was in the military, of course, I was trained to be a soldier, and there's a certain way that you dress, there's a certain way that you wear your hair, and how you conduct yourself, how you speak. And I've always carried my military training with me in any profession that I've had. But there's also a part of me that's artsy, that's fun, that's laid back, and not so serious. And so finding the right balance, the right mix of when do I let that person out and when am I really composed and professional and stern. But as of late, I will say I have had the most success in career and in life and just not worrying about just being uber professional and making sure that I look the part, my hair's in a ponytail, because in the military, your hair is in a ponytail, it's not below your collarbone, the small stud earrings, very conservative. But I like the wild hair, I like the colors.
Embrace what God gave.
All of it, embrace what God gave. All of that, right. I change my hair quite frequently. A lot of my artsy friends get me, but then when I switch to the uber professional side, they're like, who is this person? We don't know this version of you, Natasha. But then the folks who I know on a professional level, when they meet the artsy Natasha, they're like, well, who is that? Did she come out more? She's really fun. So that really, for me, is the challenge that I face. But as I've said, I think as I've gotten older and have just been surrounded with a lot of really amazing women in my path who've just urged me to be myself, and I've embraced that, I have found that to be very, very successful for me, because I find that in embracing the softer side, if you will, it helps me to lead better, right? I lead from a different perspective than, say, having the military or the really strict mindset. I'm able to ask those questions. Okay, you're having an off day today, what's going on? As opposed to just going straight into the discipline piece of it. Because people bring their lives to work with them, right? They don't leave that at home or at the door, as so many of us would like. But if somebody has had, say, a fight with their spouse, or something has happened to their child in school and they're thinking about that, they're gonna bring that with them in the workplace, and it's gonna affect how they perform. So just really, really embracing the softer side has helped me.
Okay, so the next question is, some of you kind of already touched on this, so if you have, just say I've already talked about it and I'll talk about it again. Or, anyway, but it's what have you seen in the past and what do you see in the future for your specific position? And I guess specific being current.
I will say that in my profession, in municipal government, there are a lot more women entering the profession, which I think is an amazing thing, because we bring just a different way of looking at situations. We bring a different set of problem-solving skills, which is extremely valuable. Our voice offers just originally the profession was male dominated, and so problems were solved basically the same way, but with more women entering into the profession, and I think with what's going on now with the federal employees, I think we also are going to benefit from the experience that that group of people can bring into local government if they seek that as an avenue for employment. So I think the field is open. I would encourage and welcome anyone who wants to come into this profession. I would love to serve as a mentor for anyone who has any interest at all, right? There are different paths to becoming a town manager or a city manager, and would love to just foster those conversations.
I think think that was a really good answer. And I think, as I stated before, there were a number of women who were attorneys. And I think as I have grown through my career, there have been more women who have been elected as Commonwealth attorneys. In fact, I think at this point in time, we may have more female Commonwealth attorneys in Virginia than males. If not more, we are almost equal. However, when it comes to judges, I'm proud to say I am the first female judge in Northern and so that had never happened before. And so I guess that is a difference, right? A big difference. And I also believe that as a female, we can add things to the judicial system. One of the things that I pride myself in is listening and being empathetic. And so maybe, and I bring that into the courtroom. I try to listen. I want to know why the individual is there and what issues may be dealt with. And so, and I'm not saying men can't be empathetic. Please don't take that as my statement. But I do believe that we lend some emotion to the courtroom that we may not always see from a male's perspective. I also though think that can be hurtful, that can also be negative, because I recall being in court, and again, I think this is self-inflicted, but representing a rape victim, and the judge is just lighting into the defendant and giving him the sentence and saying all these things, and tears are running down my face. And I'm supposed to be that attorney, that's the prosecutor, that's strong, there for the victim, but I can't turn those emotions off. And I can honestly say I don't think I've ever seen a male cry in court before. Some of that's a good or a bad thing, but that I think that it can be helpful. The emotional side of us can also be very helpful, beneficial as well.
I agree with everything. When I had a real job, when I worked in the government, I worked mostly with men. And I found that very rewarding because I think the duo works very well. Now I work mostly with women. And I have found with female artists, not all of them, but most of them understand they have to work harder. They really have to be business people. And I try to explain that to some of the male artists, and even I must not be communicating it well, or they're just not going to do it. I'm not sure which. I guess the best advice I can give you is sign your first initial and your last name.
In terms of the future, I would like to continue to be able to mentor young historians, archaeologists. I had a lot of opportunities to do that in my former life. When I was in CRM, I worked with more staff. I would have people coming into the lab, and it was in Fredericksburg, so we just had this flow of students from the University of Mary Washington coming in, and I don't know how many of them I've seen graduate and go on to, have these amazing careers, and I really enjoyed working with them, helping them, seeing them, grow up into archaeologists. I don't have quite as many people now at the park, but I want to continue that, foster those relationships, and continue to, mentor young archaeologists. I will admit, I would say 99.9% of the archaeologists that I've mentored have been women, and they just tend to lean more towards the lab side of things in archaeology. The outside part, men, but it's pretty evenly spread in terms of field, but mostly it's women in the lab, it seems. And I agree with everything else the others on the panel have said, but I think that's what I would want my future for.
Okay, and so our final question, and I want to thank you all you ladies, for all your insight. some advice for young women entering the workforce?
Specifically my, like.
It can be your own or just in the workforce in general.
Can I pass?
Sure.
I'm leading a course in the Artist Way. Some of you all might remember it from the 90s. I hadn't done it before, and I was doing it at the same time I was leading the group. And it turned out to be nothing like I thought it would be. Well, I only have women, so that's number one. But no matter what the exercise is or what we're working on every week, and no matter, our backgrounds are so diverse, none of us has had anything similar. We all come up with the very same things, and many of them are self-doubt as women. And again, I'm the oldest one in here, and I think that in my generation, we really weren't expected to work. We were expected, as I say, to get married, have 2.5 kids, have dinner on the table when your husband came home, and go to church on Sunday. That was what I was raised to do. Going to college was like, you want to do what? So I think, I try to work with as many school kids as I can here. I love working with the kids. They're so enthusiastic. And, I told them it doesn't make any difference whether this is going to be your profession, your passion, your hobby, or whatever. But do it, draw from your inner self, be confident with what you do. Everybody is not going to like your art. And I want to tell you, everybody loves to criticize your art. When I started showing, I had tears many times because they're brutal. And they go, how long did it take you to paint this? Well, you're just an artist, it's not, why are you charging that much for it? And they really tend to, and I don't know, I'm not going to say it's because I was a woman, but as an artist, I found I didn't have as much confidence as I had in the professional workplace. So I think, be confident, put yourself out there, be ready to take your knocks when they come, roll with it, which doesn't kill you, will make you stronger. That's what my mother said.
Okay, so I wrote down some notes because I thought there were some things that I wanted to say that was important. So I'm not checking text messages. It's so funny that what you said is one of my big ones. So is to have faith in yourself and be confident. Get out of your comfort zone. Believe it or not, I was petrified of public speaking. I could not speak in public. In law school, I could not speak in public. And so it has taken me a very long time of pushing myself to do things that I wasn't comfortable with to get to where I am. And I still get nervous. It's a lot easier now. But that was a big one. Be confident in yourself, step out of your comfort zone. Be positive. I am an optimist. Even on the rainiest day, I believe that there is a rainbow on the other side. And so I was talking to a friend of mine. She was a breast cancer survivor and huge support to me. I'm also a breast cancer survivor. And we were having a conversation, or she had said something about what she says to her kids. And she said, when something upsets you, get upset and then come up with a plan and fix it. Because it doesn't do any good to just be upset about it. So deal with your emotions and then take those 5 or 10 minutes to deal with the emotions and then figure out how you're gonna fix it. Come up with a plan. Always give 110% to everything you do. If you do something halfway, and I'm not gonna use a different word, but if you do something halfway, people will know that. And so if you have decided to do something, you've got to give it your all and put everything you have into it. And then finally, be kind. I think it's so important, and I think that's good for everyone, is just be kind to other people. I say this, and I've said this to many people who have come in the courtroom. Neighbor disputes, oh my gosh, they drive me crazy. But anyway, just be kind to other people. If you are kind to other people and you treat them well, and treat them with respect. They will hopefully, show you the same respect. So that's my plan.
I love that, Julia, all of it. I can't believe you had problems speaking in law school.
Oh, I couldn't speak properly.
I would say to know that you're more than enough. You were created for such a time as this. Just a little twist on getting outside of your comfort zone. Do the thing that scares you, the thing that absolutely terrifies you. Do that thing, because that's the thing that's going to really bring you the success, the happiness, all the things that you want. The thing that keeps you up at night, that you tell yourself that you can't do, that you're not qualified to do that thing and know that you absolutely can do it. The thoughts that just won't go away in your mind, that's the thing that you need to do. You're more than enough. You are more than enough. There was one more thing that just slipped my mind. When I was younger, my motto was, I am woman, hear me roar. But as I have been mentored and met a lot of wonderful women along my path, my motto now is, I am woman, I have no need to roar. Your work will speak for itself.
Can I go? Absolutely.
So I just have two quick things that came to mind. Thank you for letting me pass and for jogging my memory. The imposter syndrome is 100% real, and people of all ages deal with that. But my one piece of advice is, if the opportunity isn't presenting itself or it looks really hard, make it happen for yourself. When at my former job, I wanted more than what they were giving me, and they weren't giving me opportunities. So I reached out. I made them happen for myself. There was a workshop I wanted to attend. It was in Albuquerque. It was too expensive, so I called a friend and somehow convinced them to do pretty much the same workshop. And now it's something that the Maryland Archaeological Conservation Lab does all the time. Make these things happen for yourself. And in terms of being a woman and just a human, be the type of person that straightens the crown and not the one that points out that the crown is crooked.
Back to this end of, yeah, there you go. I knew that I respected these women before I invited them, but I respect you all so much more since I've heard what you had to say. And the only other thing I could wish for is that we had this room filled with little girls to hear the things that you have, and young gentlemen too. I mean, I think young men need to hear these things. To stand for yourself, to wish for more, to want more. So thank you all so much for coming this evening. Thank you all so much for coming and supporting our lecture series and supporting these women. Let's give each other a round of applause. I'm going to remind you that on Tuesday night, we are once again going to have a grand opening, an open house at the museum in Montrose. From 5, it'll start at 5 o'clock, and it'll end at 8 o'clock. We've got Ingleside Winery coming and Northern Neck Brewery coming. We'll also have water available and singers. We have 2 different entertainers, Tommy Filkowski and Aaron Wallace will be there providing music. And so please come, bring your chair, enjoy a really nice evening. It's supposed to be a really nice evening. I just got the message earlier about 5 minutes before we started this thing this evening. It's supposed to be about about 60 to 70 degrees is what I was told. And so it's going to be a nice evening. So I'm looking forward to a really nice turnout. And hope you all will join us. It is open to the public. It's free to the public, other than whatever you want to purchase while you're there, if you want to purchase. If you want to bring your own soda or your own water or whatever, you can't bring your own alcohol, but you can bring whatever else you want to drink. You're more than welcome to do so. We also, I encourage everyone, become a member. If you're not a member of the museum, please become a member. We are growing exponentially all the time, and I'm so proud of where we've gone and where we're going. And so we have, if you're interested in joining, come talk to us afterwards. You can sign up right here today, or you can sign up at the museum, and we will definitely sign you up. And we have different levels, so there's all different levels. A regular membership is $50, but that will give you open membership to all that and anything that we have going on in the new, I want to call it the new museum, but it's the old museum that was actually built in the 1939, 1940 time frame. We have restored and just done a wonderful job in what's the President's Garden. So please come visit the garden. We will have, if you're ever interested in volunteering, we'll have all kinds of spaces where you can volunteer in whatever your capacity is, whatever your interest is. So that's certainly there. But that will be from 5 to 8 on Tuesday evening. Anything else? And also, if you have an interest in hearing about something, learning about something you want to hear, I had Joey King left the other night, it was just last night. He said, I'd love to do one on the rescue squads in the area. He wants to talk about the rescue squad. That's been his life. So, I mean, anything you want to hear about, let me know and we'll organize. I want to do this monthly on the 4th Thursday of every month. And so I need topics, whatever is interesting you. We're planning in the future doing some, I'll probably be doing one on genealogy, 101. I'm a genealogist. That was my plan B after leaving my government job. So and being from here all my life, these families are real to me, and most of them are related to me. And so I love talking to people. I had 3 people this week who came in just to talk about the Sanfords. And I was like, okay, well, I wish you all come on the same day, but yeah, we can talk about the Sanfords. I had another group who came and wanted to talk about the Reeds. And of course, one of my very best friends, Mary Jo Hunley, lives on that property. Her mother was a Reed, and so we went down there. I said, not only are we going to talk about your family, but we're going to go look at your home place. So there's just so many stories to tell about the families that settled here, raised their children here, and sent them out in the world, and who came back here. This has meant a lot to me to hear you all speak, and thank you again for coming.